there you go.
I started doing construction management. Got to build a 26-story building here in Dallas, Texas. Construction management 3 weeks ago. So
Congratulations.
I'm truly trying to design my life at this point.
Absolutely.
I think the biggest thing is joining masterminds and going to real networking events in person. Going to be bringing all of those back up, and so that's going to be instant cash flow once we get those done.
Huge value add play right
on the computer all the time, studying, analyzing, reading, and I like those things, but I enjoy talking to people more.
Hey everyone, we have a really amazing guest, William Holland, on our show today. He has gone from working with project management, building billions of dollars of real estate to quitting his W-2. He's a phenomenal guy at only 27 years old. He's already quit his W-2 and he is pursuing real estate full time. We are really excited to have him to see how he has transformed and designed the life that he really wanted. William, it's so good to have you on our show, Life by Design podcast. Your life is amazing. We chatted a little bit earlier. So tell us a little bit more about, number one, what's your life now? How was it before? How did you get into what you've gotten into?
Definitely. So my life, I grew up in a small town in Texas. It was a great place to grow up. I have a lot of friends, a lot of family back there, and then I transitioned to Texas A&M where I graduated. Moved to a big city, and that was Houston, and then ended up in Dallas. So I've lived all over Texas. I loved it. So ultimately I started doing construction management. Got to build a 26-story building here in Dallas, Texas.
Wow.
It's a beautiful building. It's an office. It was fully leased in the last few years, so it's been a successful project for the people that we built it for. Ultimately, I wanted to be a developer myself and wanted to acquire real estate and build some generational wealth for my friends and my family and my investors. And so I started reading books. I got exposed to Grant Cardone. I'm sure most of the listeners know who that is. So, I listened to some of his content, read one of his books, and I was hooked instantly. I was like, man, I think this is what I've been looking for.
Which book did you read first?
How to Invest in Real Estate, I think is what it's called.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it was a really good first exposure. So my mom's always been a realtor. My dad's always been in construction. And I've always seen that. I've always been around that space. And I knew I wanted to have my own business at some point. So I actually just quit my job in construction management 3 weeks ago. So
Congratulations.
I'm truly trying to design my life at this point.
Absolutely. Is that what you went to school for at Texas A&M, was construction management?
It wasn't. So I studied mechanical engineering.
Okay. Smart dude.
I did some, yes sir, yeah. I'm gifted, I guess, but, by God's grace. So ultimately I studied mechanical engineering. I did some design work for a while, and there's a way to become licensed as an engineer. And that's 2 tests. So you take a 6-hour test covering every single thing that you've ever studied in undergraduate. I passed that test. It was brutal, 125 questions. But I passed it, thankfully. And then I did the design for a while. Mm-hmm. And you have to get 4 years of experience. Then you can take the engineering test to become licensed. Ultimately, I realized that wasn't what I wanted to do long term.
Wow. So now what made you want to do real estate? Or how did you even get into it from the get-go?
So growing up, my parents flipped houses, and I got to help a little bit with some of the work. I'm more of like a painter and like demo guy.
Yeah.
I'm not a super skilled craftsman. I can cut a few boards, but I might have to cut a few times or make some mistakes.
Right.
So I was always around that, and I started a mowing business when I was a younger kid, and kind of grew that over time. So expanded that. I ended up buying better equipment. I got my own trailer. I bought a 0-turn riding lawnmower, backpack blower. I started having people work for me. I grew that business out, and so ultimately I've been around real estate my whole life. And how I got started in 2021, I bought a house myself. It's a 4-bedroom house. So I'm actually recording here today in my own home. And I rent out 3 of the bedrooms. I'm actually about to start renting out the master bedroom as well. So all the bedrooms will be rented out. And I've got 2 living rooms. And so I'm going to build out an additional space for myself.
That's
And so
awesome.
that was my first experience. Obviously, I'd been building construction and large commercial projects for several years, and so around a lot of developers and networking there. That was my first personal purchase, and then I've invested passively in 4 deals. So multifamily, manufactured housing, an arbitrage play, hoping to rezone a property. And then I became a co-general partner last year on a apartment complex in Atlanta, Georgia.
That's great. That's great. And I earlier we were talking about you just came back from visiting Georgia.
I did, yeah. I just visited last Friday, got to tour the property, so I actually ended up driving there from Texas. I wanted to get a nice little road trip in and see some friends. So the apartment complex is 170 units. It's a Class C property built in the 1960s. So there's a lot of opportunities to add true value, not just exterior paints or anything like that, but actually going in and really bringing units up to market. And it's pretty cool. There's also a building that had some fire damage.
Oh.
And so 8 units are completely offline.
Wow.
So we bought the property like that. And so we're literally going to be bringing all of those back up. And so that's going to be instant cash flow once we get those done.
Huge value at play right there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, when you
over
started,
$100,000 of NOI increased through that
is that right?
on an annual basis.
Wow,
Yes, sir.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, William, bring us back to when you first did invested as a LP, as a limited partner, right? How did you find out about syndications? Was that something that was always on your radar? And how did you even choose who to invest with?
Absolutely, yeah. As soon as I heard about it, I was like, I definitely want to start investing. It's so great to be a passive investor because you literally, you do the research, you build a relationship with people, and I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of people. At some point, I'll have to start saying thousands, but I've certainly talked to hundreds and hundreds of people across the nation that are real estate professionals, from brokers to lenders to syndicators. And some of them I wouldn't want to do business with, but some of them I most certainly, I trust, I respect. They've got a good track record. And so, I host my own podcast, and actually one of the guests, I ended up becoming a passive investor with him. I liked him. I liked the projects that he was working on, and I was like, hey, can I invest in some of your deals?
Yeah.
So, that's kind of how I got the exposure and got the relationships. It's just literally like talking to people and asking the right questions and reading books and listening to podcasts and going. I think the biggest thing is joining masterminds and going to real networking events in person. I think that's where the really strong relationships are built.
That's great. What masterminds are you part of?
So I'm a part of Raise Masters.
Uh-huh.
So that is educating you on how to become better at raising capital and providing value to potential investors in your audience. So that's been really helpful. I've found a mentor through that program, and that's one thing that's helped me grow and excel as well. As I've got mentors for every single aspect of my life.
That's great.
And I have mentors that are doing the things that I want to do.
Yeah.
So that's been amazing. So I'm also a part of the Real Estate Council, which is the largest real estate organization in North Texas. We have over 2,000 members. I'm actually on a committee this year, so really trying to hone my leadership and be able to serve. It's a nonprofit, but it's got attorneys, it's got land developers, it's got bankers, it has lenders, it has everybody that touches real estate, and they get a lot of money to revitalize areas of Dallas that need tender love and care.
Some TLC, huh? That's great. With mentorship, it's so important. I think a lot of people don't realize how much a mentor can really impact your life. Now, bring us back, you did your limited partnership. What year was that?
So that was last year as well. Yeah,
so that was just last year. Mm-hmm. So from there, you did the LP, then you worked on a deal that was arbitrage. I heard you mention the term arbitrage. Some of our listeners may or may not know what arbitrage is. Can you do a little explaining of what that is?
Definitely. So for those of that are familiar, each property or each piece of land, each tract of land, whether it's a residential home or a commercial office or whatever it is, like those are zones with like the city. And you have like a single family subdivision, and so you can only build single family there. Well, you can buy pieces of land and hope that they get rezoned at some point to an area or to a type of building that can produce better cash flows. And so I was passively invested in this deal. It's in California, and it's actually 1 mile from where they had that fusion. I don't know if you heard about that. Like some scientists, fusion is like a way to generate energy similar to what the sun does. And people have been trying to make that happen for a really long time, and they actually were successful in making fusion. And so that's like a big area that, if they're able to continue to get money and all that stuff, that area of California is going to really boom. And so we bought it's basically like a rebar facility where they make like steel for buildings.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to get it rezoned in 2025 to be like multifamily or residential homes. And so, you would subdivide that lot up and then be able to build a lot more buildings that would be a lot more valuable than what the land currently is.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, ultimately, if more people are going to move in there, that's what you want to do, right?
Exactly.
Now, then the next journey is you got into the Atlanta, right, where you're co-GP on that deal. And how did that happen?
So just I'm obviously I want to invest passively, but there's more risk to become a general partner, a co-general partner, but there's also more upside and more potential, dollar value that you can gain from it. And so I talked to a lot of people. I've been talking to people in Dallas, and ultimately a guy reached out to me and said, hey, would you be able to potentially invest some of your own capital into this deal? And then would you have potential to maybe raise a little bit of capital as well? And, I reached out to a lot of mentors. I mean, it's a scary thing to raise capital from other people, and it's scary because, you want to take care of your investors.
Right.
It's a responsibility. It's not something that you just jump into. And so I talked to a lot of mentors about it. I talked about the deal with a lot of people as well. And ultimately, I'm pretty confident that the deal, Lord willing, will perform well. I think we'll meet, and honestly, I think we'll probably exceed our expectations, especially when we're able to bring those units back up online. And so I got a seat at the table as a co-general partner.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, at what point, and this is a scary part as well, you quit your W-2 job 3 weeks ago. Right? Now you're smiling. I see a smile on your face, which is good, right? Now, a lot of people who are in real estate want to work out of their W-2 and do real estate full time. At what point did you realize you were ready for that?
That's a great question. So obviously, I get rental income from owning my home and house hacking. I was making, really good money with my W-2, and I loved my company. I love the job that I was doing. I love the people. I mean, it's the type of place, we had a guy last year celebrate 40 years with the company.
Wow.
We have a ton of people like 30, 25, 35 years. And so it has that culture. Like, that's a place that you want to be forever. But ultimately, and I say this humbly, but it was a distraction for me from the things that I really am more passionate about. And I think that more closely aligns with my skill set, and I love people. And so real estate is all about building those relationships and connecting with people constantly, whether it's potential partners or talking to potential investors. And so I got my first check for the acquisition fee from the deal in Atlanta, and then I sold the rest of my lawn mowing equipment to my dad. And ultimately, I had a target. I was like, okay, I don't know if this year is going to be super profitable for me, but being able to focus on this full time, I can potentially scale quicker, or build more relationships with investors, because I want to raise capital. That's that's what I really am passionate about.
Right.
You know, I want to be like a strategic guy and, you know, help think long term, like how are we growing our business, you know, for the next 5 or 10 years. And so I couldn't do that, you know, with working 40, 50, 60. In December of last year, I had a 70-hour work week.
Wow.
And I think that's kind of what pushed me to say, hey, I love this, but it's time to start focusing on real estate full time.
That's great. That's great. I'm so happy for you that you were able to make that transition.
Definitely, yes, sir. And kind of, you know, with all that being said, I may have to start a part-time job in real estate pretty soon, you know, just to make sure I'm able to pay the bills. I'm looking at underwriting new developments, so that would be something, you know, it would closely align with my long-term goals. But the reason I was able to step away from my job is I said, hey, like, I have this dollar amount I want to have saved up, you know, so I want to have a cushion. You know, it's like I want to be able to pay all my bills. Like, I don't want to have to stress about anything. And, like, I had that in my 401k already. And I'm like, well, no more excuses. Like, it's time for me to just step out in faith and see where God takes me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Cut that safety cord, right? You know, and go for it.
Just burn the bridges.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now, you mentioned that, you know, you were able to get out of the W-2, which is phenomenal, and you had enough saved up, right? What are your plans moving forward, you know, with capital raising? What made you choose capital raising to begin with? Because there's so many roles in real estate, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So obviously, you know, I'm honing my underwriting skills. I've talked to a lot of brokers, and, you know, so basically, you know, for listeners that don't really know the pieces of the pie, you know, you have broker relationships, you have people trying to find deals on a team, and, you know, it's not wise to try to take down a $20 million property by yourself. I mean, if you could do it on your own, you know, you wouldn't be able to take care of your investors the way that you would need to. So you have broker relationships, you have investor relationships, you have lender relationships, you know, and you've got like maybe people that are on the property management side, and you have construction experts. And so all of those skills, you know, a lot of those things are very, you know, on the computer all the time, studying, analyzing, reading, you know, and I like those things, but I enjoy talking to people more. And so capital raising allows me to spend more time talking to people. And I think that's the reason I really would like to focus on that this year.
Hey, I mean, real estate all in all is a business and a relationship business, right? It's not just all about the buildings and numbers. That's great.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what do you like to do on a personal level, William? What do you like to do?
I've got too many hobbies.
It's never too many. What do you got?
So this year, I'm really focusing on fitness and exercise and lifting weights. And so my goal for this year is to lift 200 days and do 200 ab workouts. So I'm on target so far with that, and I didn't just start that January 1st. I started doing that in like November of last year.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of growth. My goal is to gain muscle and gain strength. So, you know, I've gained 5 or 10 pounds in the last few months. So pretty excited about that progress. I also love bike riding. I don't do that so much in the winter, but come spring and summer, I'll be getting back into that. And then I had ankle surgery last February.
Oh, wow.
And so finally getting to a point where I can start playing basketball again. And that's probably like one of my favorite things to do is play basketball.
That's awesome. That's awesome. When you say bike riding, is it a mountain bike or road bike? What do you do?
So I have a road bike. So
Okay.
I've done a 50-mile ride, and I do typically like 30-mile rides pretty regularly.
That's
you know,
awesome.
And that seems like a lot, but for somebody that road bikes, you know, it's maybe not quite as impressive.
Yeah. No, I started doing road biking before I had my daughter. It's almost like I have a 10-year-old, and then the moment I had her, certain things just stopped. You know, you focus on the kids more, right? But I used to join some of those Lance Armstrong rides, and we'll do like a 30. You know, my goal was this: I never go out for less than 20. Like if friends are like, "Oh yeah, let's go for a ride," I'm always asking, "Hey, where are we going?" If it's less than 20, it's not even worth it, right? you gear up, you strap everything on, and you make sure the bike works, get everything pumped up. So the longest one I've done was about 65-mile ride over like 3 cities, and I was beat up afterwards. I was spent. Yeah, so that's cool. That's cool. Now, what are your goals moving forward? Capital raising is definitely one of them. You said you want to eventually do development as well, be a developer. Are you talking about like a ground up developer where you buy a piece of land and you develop and sell, do the whole project?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that's what I was doing for other people in construction management.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I've been able to connect with some developers here in Dallas that have built, skyscrapers or, billions of dollars of ground up construction. And, I've got a couple of mentors like that. So that's what I would like to do long term for sure.
That's awesome. Well, from the get-go, William, how old are you, by the way?
I'm 27.
Yeah, you're a young guy. I remember talking to you, 27 years old, already able to quit his W-2 job, right? And start really designing the life, William, that you have. I'm proud of you, man, to be able to do that at 27 years old. Hell, most people don't even get to do that decades later, and you're doing it at 27.
Yes, sir.
So that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I wish you best of luck. I know we'll keep in touch. Maybe we'll go on a bike ride someday.
That'd be awesome.
As well. Yeah. All right. And you're in Dallas, right?
Live in Dallas, Texas.
Live in Dallas,
sir.
Texas. I'm going to be out there for a conference end of March, beginning of April. It's a medical conference. I'll make sure I hit you up. Maybe we'll go grab a coffee in the morning. I'd love to meet you in person.
Oh, that'd be wonderful, man. I'm always open to meeting new people.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Maybe we can grab dinner and we'll just grab a few people that I know out there.
And I can show you the building I built too.
There you go. Love to have really get a tour of Dallas when I'm there. So
absolutely, man. Let's plan on it.
Absolutely. All right, William. Well, thank you so much. You have a great rest of your day. Thank you for being on the show.
Yes, sir. I've enjoyed it. You have a good day too.
For those of you who really love William's podcast and learning more about investors and entrepreneurs just like him, make sure you dial in. You can visit our other podcasts and videos here and over here as well. We'll see you guys next time.